Our fourth respondent is my friend, Dr. Andrew Fiala. I'm going to read what Andy wrote as if you'll get a clear idea of just who this person is, and then I'll tell you something else about him. Andrew Fiala, Ph.D., is professor of philosophy and the director of the Ethics Center at California State University, Fresno. The author or editor of more than a dozen books, has published nearly 100 articles and book chapters. One relevant recent title is Seeking Common Ground, a Theist-Atheist Dialogue, with co-author Peter Adlerand, 2021, featuring a foreword by Rabbi Jack Moline, the former president of the InterFaith Alliance, which Paul is the, you might say, incumbent or present current one. Andy Fiala writes a regular column on ethics. You can read it in the Bee, on religion and politics, but also a column on secularism for Only Sky. Here is the book you're going to want to get. It puts in a personal relationship with a Catholic in Dublin how Dr. Fiala creates a dialogue over virtues which unite and need not separate people of every different form of faith or non-faith. Most recently, though, he almost outdid himself, writing interfaith work needs to include the non-religious. It's not enough that we have tremendous dialogue among believers like some of us, but there is a giant lot of people, 20% maybe at least, who do not affiliate, but they have tremendous contributions to make to dialogue over the issues that Paul raised tonight. Andy, your turn. Dr. Andrew Fiala.
Thank you, Jim. I witnessed what Jim did to make this event happen, so can we thank him again? You wouldn't believe what he did to pull this off. So I've been asked to speak from the non-religious perspective. I have to admit, it's a weird thing to be, a non-faith person in an interfaith world. But I want you to know, and you may be aware of this, that the fastest growing religion in the United States is no religion. Something like the most recent data, like 30% of Americans do not affiliate with any religious tradition. That includes about 10% who are either atheists or agnostics. But of that 30, subtract those 10, that's 20% of folks who have willfully, consciously disaffiliated from religious traditions. Paul, one of the things you talked about was the demographic shift. And so kind of a question for you maybe you can respond to. I suspect that Christian nationalism is afraid of secularism. And I think you see this especially in the discourse. When you read what the Christian nationalists are saying, they blame secularism. And Ken, you mentioned secularism also. I think we need to do a better job of understanding what secularism is in this country, and I think that's related to the need for civic literacy. Many of our fellow citizens don't have a clue about the First Amendment. There's survey data on this. I've been giving lots of talks on this. People, the survey says, well, what's in the First Amendment? People say, well, is that the one about the right to bear arms? And you'd think a lot of people would know that one, because we talk a lot about the Second Amendment. We just don't understand our own system of government. It's essential, however, for what it is to be Americans, that we are free to practice our own faith or non-faith in our own way, and the government is not to intrude on that practice through the establishment of religion. We need better, I think, civic literacy as part of this project. I'm going to say a couple words about virtues because I'm an ethics professor, so thank you for plugging my book. Let me say, this was not an easy book to write. So a person who I did not know reached out to me out of the blue a Catholic theologian, and he just wanted to talk to an atheist. Most atheists did not respond to his email. I was the only one. And it felt a little strange, I would say. So we had 2 years of conversations, and what we discovered is, Sukaina, we're all human. That your lovely, phrase about respecting our common humanity. We love our children, we love music and art, we love our countries. There's so much we share in common, and it's very easy to be divided, especially the way the political rhetoric unfolds in our nation, this polarized world we live in. It's unfortunate. One of the things that we discovered in the book, or we talked about, is a set of common virtues that bring people together. So there were H's and C's we came up with. You got to come up with something memorable. But the H's included, let me make sure I get this right, hospitality, humility, and honesty. Let me say a word about each. Hospitality, that is the spirit of welcoming someone and caring enough about them as a human being to ask what they need and how we can support them. We talk about toleration, and the First Amendment gives us the space of toleration, but toleration is insufficient for human beings, right? It's cold toleration. Hospitality is warm. Humility, the other H virtues, humility is being willing to admit that you don't know everything. Being willing to say that you're wrong about things. Being willing to shut up and listen rather than speaking and yelling, and we're not good at that in our world. Honesty, being able and willing to say what you really believe, despite the pushback. And actually, part of the issue for the non-religious is, I think a lot of non-religious folks are kind of embarrassed of it, because there's so much religiosity in our world, there's no space for us to say what we believe. And so, Jim, you referenced this thing I said, long story, but anyway, I said, atheists need to show up to these things. And we don't often. We're not honest in public. So then there were 3 C's. Let me share with you the C's: courage, curiosity, and compassion. So courage is related to that willingness to be honest and being willing to put yourself in weird and strange situations, which I know folks in the interfaith community are good at. When you go and visit a place of worship, it's kind of intimidating. We need to have the courage to feel out of place and uncomfortable, I think. Curiosity, connected to hospitality in a sense, but trying to find out what other people believe. And often we don't ask, we just assume, That's imposing rather than receiving. So curiosity. And then, of course, compassion, obviously important in this world related to the work you're doing. We're so quick to judge and leave people alone in their suffering, when in fact, we're all in it together and we all need help. So the spirit of compassion there, very important. If I can end with a couple questions for you, prompted by your talk. So one of the things I'm very concerned about is the violence component. You mentioned that Christian nationalists also say, and yes, violence might be needed. I think with Dr. Kapoor sitting right next to you, we need more and better teaching about nonviolence. And I'm wondering, where's that happening? I'm actually worried that our world does not teach anything about nonviolence. Our films, our celebration of war, our entire culture is oriented towards militarism and war. Where are we learning those lessons of nonviolence? I'd like to hear more. Another problem, question, worry. We don't know the right words to talk about this challenge of Christian nationalism. I heard you say, I know it's just, the word came out. You said, how are we going to defeat Christian nationalism? Is that the right word? I'm curious. Can we convert Christian? Is the right word there convert? Is the word separate? People are talking about the national divorce. You heard this? What is the frame for moving forward? I like the hopeful vision. I think we are making progress. But what do we do? And is defeating really what we need to do? And then if it's not defeating, what would it be? And if it's converting, how in the heck is that going to work? How do we get people to join our team? At any rate, thank you very much for your comments. What a beautiful talk. I mean, I wish I could give a talk like that. The narrative began and ended, it was wonderful. And thanks again to my colleagues, and thank you, Jim Grant, for organizing.
There's no words to thank everyone who has contributed to this initial evening. It's only the kickoff. I'm going to let the Reverend have a chance, as he'd like. He'll be the last one to speak, to kind of wrap us up tonight, respond in any way he would like to the ones who presented things to him. And on that note, I invite you to sign in when you leave if you haven't signed in. Join us tomorrow at 8 at Temple Beth Israel if you can. That's the one that's on Maroa, just south of Herndon. And Paul, your turn to send us away tonight with a blessing. Thank you.
Well, I feel we have been very blessed already, and I am not going to take up much more of your time. I do want to thank each of you very much for those thoughtful contributions. I feel like the opportunity is to learn from one another. And you asked some amazing questions, Andrew, and I have been very interested in the nonviolence. I mean, that is a broader civic question. The language of defeat, I mean, I get pushback about that a lot. If I didn't feel we were at an existential moment where we just can't let Christian nationalism become the dominant political force in our country, because it will mean so much harm for so many people. So I don't know what else to call it. You know, so I get it, military, it's terrible, but I don't know what else to call it because the stakes feel very high to me. And I have all kinds of privileges, so they're much higher for more. But they're very high, I got a family, I have the same gender partner, I have 2 boys, like I feel existential threat. So I don't know what else to call it, aside from winning. But I do like the idea that we have to keep on thinking, because part of it is, how do we invite people into this other vision of America that does not need to demean them, that can be celebrating exactly who they are, but not letting that have to be me. And so I think figuring out that. The other thing that we're going to have dinner time sometime.